So I think we'll move on to the next stage of this conference session, which is 3 shorter presentations, and the presentations will all follow on from one another, and then we will have some time for questions at the end, or of course, obviously feel free to put your questions in the chat. So I'll just introduce our next team of speakers. So Tahir Hatahed, Ahmed Rauf Mohammed, Mariam Malagorji and Emma, all from Queen's University in Belfast. And this afternoon, they're going to talk to us about remote learning in transnational education and engagement with virtual learning environment and how students' perceptions link to their performance in examinations. So I really look forward to hearing what their experiences are in this area. So I'm going to pass over to you, Tahir, to get us started.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Thanks for this introduction. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about our work in CQC, which is a transnational education joint college between Queen's University and China Medical University in Shenyang, China. So as you can see from the names of the authors of this work, you can see that the team is international and the students are international. So we are working in a really international scenario here, where we have international team of staff and international students. So this maybe is a true reflection of the terms that were explained by the keynote speaker earlier on today. This presentation is actually to give you a little bit of introduction about what this CQC is about and what are the educational challenges that we are facing, especially due to the pandemic, and how we try to overcome these challenges by switching to remote learning. And actually remote learning comes up with a new innovative way of thinking of how we deliver our course and how we think about student engagement, because now we are delivering things remotely and we are not seeing our students face to face. So how we can look into engagement and how we can try to understand how students do actually engage with the curriculum and how we can help them to navigate through their studies successfully. That is the outline for my presentation. So CQC, established in 2014 as a joint college between CMU and QUB. It recruits students from the top tier of the Gaokao in China, which is equivalent to the A level in the United Kingdom. In 2018, we had the first graduation, and this year we are running with over 400 students studying in pharmaceutical biotechnology and pharmaceutical sciences degrees. Last year we had 91 graduates, so we are growing, and hopefully there are chances for growing in terms of numbers and in terms of the degrees that are delivered in CQC by this joint venture. So just to give you an idea about how international we are about a 16 hours and a half between Belfast and Shenyang, that if you are lucky enough to have your own EasyJet to get you direct to the Shenyang. However, with longer times, stops at London or other European cities or cities in China, you can think that Shenyang is also 1 hour and a half away from Beijing. It is on the North Korean border. So we are dealing with the students who are studying in China, who are living in China, and who are exposed to the Chinese education system. But they are now at university level, and they are studying in more international, more, let's say, Western type of curriculum. So we have these challenges of the change of the way the students were studied before and the way they are studying now. So that is basically where we tended to travel back and forth for face-to-face teaching, with all the associated limitations in terms of staff mobility and difficult working hours. However, the pandemic started, unfortunately, in 2020, and we had to stop our travel between United Kingdom and China, and we started to move things remotely. So when that was done, we started to ask the question, say, what are the how students do engage actually with remote learning? And how can we use the virtual learning environment as a tool alongside their coursework marks to understand their engagement with the content, so we can understand how they can perform an exam even before going to the exam. So we can take preventive actions rather than corrective actions in terms of their performance. And finally, how do they do think actually? What are their perceptions on remote learning, and what are the key attributes of students who succeed in remote learning setting? So we were trying actually to understand this cultural point of view of how students look at remote learning and how they do think about succeeding in such environment. We started with looking into Canvas, and Canvas is the virtual learning environment that we use in CQC and across QUB for sure. We created web pages yes, on Canvas for the lectures. And these lectures were delivered as a pre-recorded material. So we have a pre-recorded material divided in different sections. And you can see with each pre-recorded material, there is a variety of resources like discussion forums, maybe quizzes to undertake, maybe a little assignment to submit, and so on. And we associated that as a pre-recorded content with live content that was delivered, unfortunately, remotely through Microsoft Teams. So we have that combination or blended approach between a pre-recorded material available for students on Canvas, followed by recap sessions or live lectures that come on Teams on different intervals during the year. And we try to use this system of teaching across the both programs in all of the modules. Now, if we look into Canvas and we think about how we can use the engagement tools or the indicators that are available in Canvas, we started to look at what Canvas actually gives us in terms of numbers. So Canvas, first of all, brings up something called last page view, which is an indirect indicator of when the last time a student logged into Canvas, which gives you an expression of how overall students are engaged with the learning materials available there. The total number of pages that has been viewed by a student, which is an indirect reflection of the amount of time maybe spent studying the lectures, studying the content, interacting with the quizzes, and so on and so forth. And the total number of participation, which is a summative number of how students submit an assignment, how many times students engage with the discussion, write a comment, maybe submit a quiz, and upload a file. So these kinds of interactions are counted as participation. And we thought how this three maybe indicators can be used in our understanding of student engagement with Canvas. And for that reason, we brought these Canvas engagement tools with the coursework and the students' assignment performed during the year. So we have the practicals, we have the coursework, we have the class test marks, things that are accumulated with time during the beginning of the semester. And we try to create a model. And this model is actually to predict final exam mark using artificial intelligence. So basically, this slide is to explain a little bit how this has been done. And it is done by our colleague, Dr. Ahmed, who is an electrical engineer and who is an expert in modeling and predictive modeling. So that was done through MATLAB. And basically what we were able to do is we collected the Canvas engagement tools 2 times throughout the semester. And we followed up with these indicators with the coursework marks into a system. And what we did for the first year, and that's what I'm presenting today, is that we used the correct actual final exam mark of the cohort of students to create the model. So we first of all created the model, and we looked for how this model, the created model, can be maybe used to predict exam performance, or how can be used, how much correlation can we get from such a model. So by creating a simple linear regression model containing all the variables that we talked about, we can see that the model that has been created where the importance of the days since last login becomes very important, alongside to the H and G variables, which are the practicals and the coursework marks, which are the actual assignments submitted by the students during the year. And you can see that the Pearson correlation coefficient obtained for the model is 0.724, which is a strong type of correlation. The correlative model, or this equation, has statistical significance, and it has an error range of 12.4%, which is almost a degree classification. So we can predict an exam performance between 60s and 70s, between 50s and 60s, and maybe between fail and pass, which is actually the most important thing. It's to understand how students will be performing in exams, so we can think of giving them the support they needed. On this slide, you can see how the model is predicting exam marks compared to the actual exam marks, and with the 90%, 95% intersects. And this brought us to the question saying, we know that these are accounting variables, but they are actually numbers that we are turning into a machine, into an artificial intelligence thing. So we need to get something more educationally, we can say something that we can comprehend more in educational setting. And for that reason, actually we went into understanding, are there any other variables, actually personal variables maybe, or student specific variables that play a role in students' engagement with the remote learning and how they succeed in that. And for that reason, we introduced a new X variable. And this X variable, actually, we brought it into the artificial intelligence, and we created a new equation that gives us a near perfect prediction. So what we can get a 1, how we can get an R squared to 1. And what we can see from the equation that this X variable actually becomes the most important variable in the whole equation. It is more important than the engagement with Canvas. It's more important than the practicals. It's more important than the submitted coursework smart. It's really, really important parameter. So the questions came down to say, now this model, if we are say asking the question, what is this X variable? And this X variable actually can be coming from a personal factors like interest or motivation. Is it a perception factor, how students actually reflect on the difficulty of the topic or their importance for their career or their importance for their degree, how the module is actually designed on Canvas, how it is delivered by the teaching staff, how we do provide feedback throughout that, and maybe how do they prepare for exam, because that is also an important parameter, or maybe it's something else. It's maybe related to how CQC is built, what are the infrastructure available to students there. So more of a general cohort related factors. And for that reason, we started to run a survey, and we did this survey over Microsoft Forums. After the examination in the academic year 2020-2021, we created the survey as 20 questions with a Likert scale, so from 1 to 5, do you agree, disagree, strongly agree, and so on. And we covered the questions around personal perception of the module, the teaching staff, the exam preparation. And we had run this on one of the modules that we created the module for, and 17 out of 55 students responded to that survey. And what we did is actually we calculated the mean, standard deviation, and the mode for the questions coming from the students, and we arranged them starting from the highest mean, followed by the highest modes alongside to get to the lowest values. And we looked for the top 5 rated questions, trying to understand what is this X variable in the eyes of the students, or for the majority of the students that responded to our survey. And what we can see from this table is actually the first thing that came out from the calculations, that students saying that studying at least 5 days before exam, which was one of the most important thing, followed by that their perception of the importance of the module for their degree. Ranked in third is the guidance actually provided by the teachers in terms of feedback on their assignments, followed by practicing example questions, which are available as Canvas quizzes or Canvas checkpoint quizzes, and finally their interest in the module. So if we want to gather these different questions into maybe coherent umbrellas, we can look into factors that are related in close to exam preparation, which is for the students are really important. Module perception factors, how they actually look into the module in terms of their importance or in terms of their interest in that module, and the teacher support. So we can see one of these 3 elements is actually teachers, and it is us in remote learning. And that comes
Sorry to interrupt, just to say
yes.
A 2-minute warning.
Yeah, okay. I'm about to finish. Thank you very much. So these actually 5 different questions highlighted that it's really important to think about exam preparation time, especially for module 1 semesters, because students don't have really that space for studying their degree, for preparing for that exam in advance. They are studying during the year. For that reason, maybe the time they allocate to prepare for exams is really important. The same thing is we need to understand how actually students balance between procrastination and consciousness in their studies, and that becomes really important because if they think something is important, they will not procrastinate it. If they are interested in something, they will do it first, and that is something that we need to work on it as teacher by providing feedback. And when we look into the feedback in online setting, it may be saying it's more of a vocational feedback on at the
Tahir, you're muted. Sorry.
Tahir, I'm sorry, we can't actually hear you at the moment. I wonder if you can unmute again.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Sorry for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So the first part of this work, which is the modeling part, has been published in MTPI journal, and it has been selected to be the cover issue of their first issue in 2022. If you are interested in the topic, you go ahead and scan this barcode, and you will go directly to the article if you want to read more about that. Hopefully, our aim actually with the perceptions is actually to model the numbers of the perceptions. For that reason, we designed them as questions with numbers 1 to 5, but due to the limited number of answers in the first survey, only 17 students, we were not able to do that. So that is one of our aims for the future work. Hopefully that will help us in better understanding the individual perception of students, how they engage with remote learning, especially in China, so we can provide better feedback for them in the future, and we will be able to help them succeed in their degree remotely. That is everything for my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I'm happy to take any questions.